Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank all of you who've been joining us throughout the years. We've been doing this show almost every weekend for the last 20 years. So I really appreciate you joining us, especially this weekend. We are a couple days, if not hours away from Christmas Day, Nochebuena, as you know, here in Mexico. Nochebuena, usually there's a lot of celebrations. I've always had this conversation with my Mexican family and my American family. I mean, what do you celebrate? Do you celebrate more on the 25th? Do you celebrate more on the 24th? How do you celebrate this this extraordinary these extraordinary moments in where you usually are, spend it with your family or close ones. So it's important times. Most people in Mexico try to travel during during these days, and it's also a time where a lot of scams take place against those who are trying to either purchase goods and services or travel or seeking travel services. And that's why I asked today's guest to join us. He's Iskander Sanchez Rola. He's Director of Innovation for Norton. And I just read this extraordinary report, Iskander, and I was quite shocked that what is it, 54%? What is the percentage of Mexicans are victims of scams when they're trying to make either reservations to travel or trying to purchase some type of services related to traveling? Welcome to the show. Just lay it out. I was quite shocked.
Yeah, the number is big, as you say, and the number is 54% of Mexican fell victim to this kind of a scam. So it's actually quite a big number, as you said, and it's something that we have to worry about and think about when we are actually booking something or checking something regarding holiday travel.
So when you say 54% are victims of scams, just describe to us, what are we talking about?
Yeah, there are different types of a scam. So there, this 54%, there's no one single type of a scam, but there are multiple ways that someone can fall to a scam. Sometimes there are things that they are called malvertising, so malicious advertisement, that they were there to make you do things that maybe you didn't want to do in the first place. But there are things like fell victim to fake travel agency scams. So you think, yeah, you are talking to a travel agency, you are not talking to one, is a scammer there. We are talking about booking websites that, again, not legit, travel discounts or deals, again, that they are not real. And
Mhm.
many times this can end up in their credit card or bank account compromise, which is also very bad. And this can create a lot of problems. And even phishing, we heard about phishing many times, right? But maybe we tend to think about one type of phishing, maybe, but we don't realize that there are many types of phishing that are coming to in these situations.
So let's talk. Let's briefly talk about fishing, because we've had throughout the years, I've had numerous guests on this show talking about cybersecurity, and many have addressed the issue or the dangers of phishing. But what has always amazed me is how phishing has the modus operandi, or the way they do this, has kind of changed, where they have different ways of hooking you. Can you just give us some examples of what you are in terms of, let's just talk about phishing related to traveling services, for example?
Yeah, so many times, man, you book something, you are like very excited. Somehow they were able to guess or know that you are doing this because of tracking that happens online nowadays. And as they know that you are expecting that thing, they send you an email from what they you think is a travel agency. Again, they are impersonating the travel agency and saying you there was a problem with your flight. Please provide us this additional information. Or there is an extra fee that you have to pay in order to go to the airport and be able to actually travel. And they look real. So you really think, and then you are expecting that. And again, you don't want your trip to disappear and not be able to do it, right? So at that moment, you are just wanted to do it to be able to perform the action, which again could be like even sometimes renting a car or going to the hotel or getting the flight, right? So then you just do it very quickly. They urge you to do it very quickly, also, right? So this sense of urgency is
Right.
always there. because they want them not to think
You'll
too
get
much
a
about it and
discount.
just
You'll get a discount if you do it like in the next two
exactly,
hours. That's the one that I've seen advertised.
exactly.
So I get, but at the same time, it is notable that Mexican banks, at least Mexican banks, have tried really hard to urge people to use their not necessarily your credit card or the heart, the credit card that you have in your hand or your debit card that you have in there, but you're supposed to use their virtual credit cards or debit cards. Is that making any difference, or can you still be scammed if you're using uh, these types of instruments, financial instruments provided by the banking system?
I mean, anything that gets like an extra layer of protection is always welcome. I will not say that just because of that you will not be targeted and that will solve all your
Mhm.
problems. And luckily, because there are multiple ways that this can happen, many times it's not only of directly associated with stealing a credit card. Many times it could be associated with identity theft, which
Right.
ends up being like a huge financial burden for all your life, maybe because of
Mhm.
that single time that you didn't do the right thing and you didn't have someone to tell you you shouldn't do it. So sometimes the problem is not only associated with credit cards, but also like your financial wellness in general that can be impacted because of this identity theft. For example, asking for your passport, or you do provide them the passports, and then they have your passport. Maybe they can ask for a loan, or they can open a bank account in your name, and this can create tons of problem, even higher than a credit card.
So I remember a couple years ago, we did some reporting on how people were renting hotel rooms or even homes to spend New Year's Eve, to spend Christmas in places like Acapulco and beaches. And then at the end of the day, when they arrived to these places, it was basically a scam. I mean, they were really, they were not, there was not there wasn't nobody was renting that home. They had been scammed. I'm just trying to figure out now, how do at you just have to do a little bit more research when you are trying to reserve these things through WhatsApp. But I'm just trying to figure out now, how are these types of scams taking place?
Yeah, many times this scenario that you are talking about, so they just steal the pictures or the information from someone else. But nowadays, because of the rise of AI, sometimes they are not even real. So it's not that you go to a place and that place is actually not being rented or something. It's just that that place doesn't even
Doesn't
exist.
exist.
Doesn't even exist. We've seen cases like that. And many times it could be like there is some scenarios that we're calculating, and we're saying that 46% of the Mexican that fall victim while traveling in this scenario of getting a house or place,
Mhm.
46% what we call this bait and switch, which is this idea of misrepresenting the login. So actually, it's not that it doesn't exist or it is not exactly the same, which is problematic because maybe you were paying for something and then you go there and it's half true.
Mhm.
And many times, even like 32% fell victim into Airbnb or general hotel scams, which could be associated with, as we described, not being the right place or being a place that doesn't even exist in the first place.
Mhm. So do you also spoke about one of the problems is that there's these sites or even ads that if you click on, they make you do things that you really don't want to do. Can you just explain to us a little bit more what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, at the end is that, again, you believe all the time that you are interacting with a legitimate business,
Mm-hmm.
and that legitimate business doesn't exist. Like, again, you are really not even talking to a business that is trying to impersonate someone else. Is that that business itself is all fake, is not
Mm-hmm.
real, but it looks very legit. And this is the problem. And then you believe something is real, and sometimes they ask for different amounts of money,
Mm-hmm.
depends on the situation. And then we actually see that these sites, when they're asking for this additional money, you believe that it's legit, so you pay. And we found that
Mm-hmm.
83% of the victims, they lose money directly on these scenarios. And this can go up to like, on average, is like around 6,000 or 5,000 pesos.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go up to 90,000 pesos, which is quite a lot of money, right? So
Right.
this range is that's the average. But in some cases, if they were able to trick you even more, this can go up to 90,000, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So give us more numbers. I mean, I was really shocked that so many people are being scammed in Mexico. 54, that you're talking more than half of the population.
Yeah.
So, what areas, just give us more ideas. What are the areas that you really, or the type of services that you really have to be careful? And when you're making reservations for flights or reservations to take buses, uh, Ubers, I'm just trying to get a sense as to where are the areas where people are most being basically victimized.
Yeah, in general, there are these things can range a lot. Like in general, these 54% are the ones that fall victim
Hmm.
after getting the scam in the first place. With the ones that are getting the scam, it goes around 15%.
Right.
And of these 15%, 54% of them actually fell victim, which is around 10% of the overall number.
Still a
Uh,
lot. It's a
yeah, it
lot.
still is a lot. It still is a lot. If you think about that, many people actually don't even travel and those scenarios. So that number is much higher if you think about it. And many times it's associated with, again, travel agencies, which can go from booking a flight or a hotel. It can be associated with, in general, booking websites, even if they don't try to look like a travel agency. But
Mhm.
things like 16% of them fall victim to car rental scams. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you go to a place and you want to rent a car, and
Mhm.
16% of these people actually fall victim to it, which is not directly associated with the travel, but is definitely included in what a travel planning would be, right?
Mhm.
But many times also there is one thing that we do when we travel, which is sometimes we use Wi-Fi hotspots. We are in a place and we want to say like, oh, I will use this Wi-Fi hotspot.
Mhm.
And you think that's free. I will just go there. And we see that actually 13% of them had their device hacked or compromised because of accessing public Wi-Fi hotspots. So it's also something that we should be extremely careful. And
Mhm.
just don't think because it's there, it's free, I'm secure because my phone is updated and everything is fine. Your data and everything you do while you are in that Wi-Fi hotspot can be monitored by a hacker. And that's something that we have to think about and take actions.
Well, do you have any advice for our audience, how to prevent becoming the next victim?
Yeah, for the one of the Wi-Fi, I will start with that one. That's the easy one. Use a VPN. That's
Mhm.
an easy one. When you are going to connect, use a VPN that will encrypt your traffic, will create an encrypted tunnel that will not allow these hackers to actually see what you are doing. So VPN is the easy one. The thing that you have to do also is this verify the authenticity of these offers. And again, I know sometimes it's not easy, but don't
Mhm.
just see the ad, for example, in your social media, click it, and then suddenly start buying it. Just start researching a bit. Maybe you can search for the name of the travel agency
Mhm.
associated with the word scam next to
Right.
it, and then they will let you know a bit more about it.
Mhm.
And one thing that is also important that we can even see here is associated with the scams, but not in the cybersecurity environment also, but that they are able to know that you are not in your place because you are sharing a lot of information in social media, this excessive or careless use of social media during holidays. So also I would recommend definitely only share a lot of information of where you are or the times that you are only after the trip and
Right.
avoid this real-time information feed that you are giving to these malicious actors that they can use. Because if
Mhm.
they know that you are traveling, maybe they will rent you, like you need a car right now in this place. How they know? You said it, you made it public. So now they can use that information against yourself. So anything that you will say will be used against you, right? So just be careful when you give this information. And definitely don't share your travel documents. We've seen these cases. Many people are sharing their travel documents without blurring anything with all the information there, which again is a very bad idea. Sometimes even these bills or anything that you're having, they have some kind of QR style barcodes and they have a lot of information. Even if you are don't seeing it, someone can scan it and even
Right.
know more about you.
Oh my God, you're making it so hard to travel. Or I would just you just I mean I understand you just have to be extremely careful. Um do you do you have any sense as to whether Mexican travelers are more likely to be victims of these types of scams? I mean, do we have any sense or any can we compare these numbers to other countries?
Yeah, we analyze this in different countries, including Mexico, of course. And
Hmm.
I think the numbers are pretty similar. There are not like huge differences. Of course, then some numbers can go a bit up or down, but there's not like a huge difference that you will compare like, oh, Mexicans fall much more than, I don't know, any other country in Latin America, for example. So we don't see a huge difference between countries. There are some differences, of course, and if we like dig a bit deeper, and then you can maybe see the difference between, I don't know, someone fall more in the discount cases, other ones they fall more in the travel agency scams, and there is a small difference here and there, but in general
Mhm.
the pattern is very similar between the different countries that we are seeing, which again is quite high. So we have to definitely be worried about it. So I will not like to point and say Mexicans at all. It's just that I think it's a normal thing, and this actually happens everywhere.
It happens. I mean, it's good to know that it happens everywhere, but it's still very worrisome. I think that the numbers are still very, very shocking. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, Iskander Sanchez Rola. He is Director for Innovation at Norton. Promise me you'll return, because one of the issues that we're going to be addressing quite frequently on this show this upcoming year, 2025, is going to be cybersecurity, because I think it continues to be one of the main challenges, not only for us all, those of us who just use you are online almost most of the day, but for the government, for the Mexican government in general, I think has been and for companies there has been few risks and problems and crises that have been reported throughout the years. So Iskander, I hope you come back. Iskander Sanchez Rola, Director of Innovations for Norton, thank you so much for joining us here
Very
on
much.
Living in Mexico.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to go to a commercial break, but I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and I'll be right back.